G'day wildlife fans, it's Nick here from Wicked Wildlife, if you guys remember. And I thought I hadn't put up a Kamp Kenan Army video in quite some time. And I'm actually out here in the Adelaide Hills, out in South Australia, where you guys may have heard we've had some bushfires. In fact, we've had bushfires over an awful lot of the country. A huge section of eastern Victoria, parts of southwest Victoria where I live, here in Adelaide, Kangaroo Island. There's been 25 million acres, or 10 million hectares of the country burnt to the ground like this or worse. Not only have we lost 25 million acres, a chunk of land the size of England, we've also lost homes. 3,000 people in the country have lost their homes. There's been 29 deaths, including several firefighters putting their lives on the line to protect other people's houses, some of whom have lost their houses themselves. And of course, there's been an estimated 1 billion animals killed. Now, the scale of this stuff is insane. And what we're going to do is, I've visited here. I've flown from my home to the Adelaide Hills to try and show you guys just some of the animals coming into care, some of the issues they're facing, and some of the issues they're going to face in the future. So stick around, guys. I want to introduce you to some carers working their butts off to help. While an estimated 8,000 koalas in New South Wales have lost their lives in these recent fires, another 20 to 30,000 koalas on Kangaroo Island, there's many koalas who are still out in the fire fields or coming out of the fire fields and needing care. And a great example is this girl here, Asha. Poor Asha came into care when she was found in a tree that was still on fire. She's got some burns to her face, she's got some burns to her hands, and she was suffering from smoke inhalation. The wonderful folks here at Southern Koala Rescue in the Adelaide Hills, they've taken her in, they've gotten her vet treatment, they've got her on antibiotics, and hopefully, just like some of their other koalas here, she'll be going out to a pre-release facility soon and getting to continue life in the wild. Of course, it's not just fire that causes an issue during the bushfire season. It's all the things that lead up to a fire. Things like drought. Drought means less food, and animals like these little guys, the flying foxes, start to really suffer. On top of that, the heat that accompanies bushfire season, it really decimates these guys and all kinds of other wildlife. Southern Koala Rescue have just visited. They've got a couple of joeys who have lost their mums in the heat, and there is 200 of these grey-headed flying foxes in care at this facility, all because of the heat. So it's not just fire. As great as it is that bushfire gets all the donations and publicity, it's all these events that go along with it that can really decimate wildlife. Now, not everybody can become a wildlife carer, set up aviaries and have the facility to look after these guys. But with 200 flying foxes in care, this facility needs volunteers to help cut up fruit. Other wildlife carers need people to collect native plants and browse for their animals. On top of that, wildlife carers are happy to take donations, whether it's money. A lot of places are happy to take supplies. For marsupials, they need pouches, for bat wraps, for these guys. So there's lots of things that you can do to help. I do tell people though, rather than just buying things and dropping them off at a door, maybe ring your local carer and ask what they need. A lot of these people are based out of private houses and they can't warehouse stuff in their facility. So if you want your money to go the furthest as possible, ring your local wildlife carer, ask if there's anything that you could give them that would really help them out, and they would be absolutely thrilled. On top of that, if you do want to get involved on more than this, you could ask about volunteering with a wildlife carer. We need more wildlife carers as more animals come into care. You don't even have to take in wildlife. You could join groups like conservation volunteers, plant trees on public areas. Not everybody can plant trees in their backyard. You could live in an apartment. So there's loads of ways you could get involved. If we all get more involved with wildlife, we're going to have a love of wildlife, and wildlife's going to do a lot better. The biggest thing that I think people can do that often gets overlooked with wildlife carers is thank them. You see, we look at the idea of being a wildlife carer, a koala carer in particular, as being quite a romantic job, you know, holding koalas and feeding koalas, and it's all lovey-dovey. But there is an awful lot of work that you don't see. It's sweeping poo, it's waking up in the middle of the night to bottle feed babies. It's a thankless task. And wildlife carers put their hearts and souls into these things. I think the simplest thing that we can do as members of the public is when we're dealing with wildlife carers, offering donations or bringing to have an animal rescued or picked up, is thank them for what they're doing, because we wouldn't have a lot of our animals without the hard work of wildlife carers. So while you can obviously see the bushfire crisis here is pretty catastrophic, it's going to take years or decades for some of these places to repair themselves, if ever, for some of our niche endangered animals. But one thing is, it's not over. As you can see, there's people out there putting their hearts and souls into helping these animals stick around so that my kids and your kids can get to enjoy them. On top of that, it sounds crazy, but here in the Adelaide Hills, we've been through these situations before. Not necessarily with a fire on this scale, but things like our koalas. It's wonderful that people are pouring their hearts out to help koalas. But in the 1920s, koalas were extinct here in South Australia. And they exist today because we decided we want them around. We brought them from another state, we bred them up, we released them, and today there's tens of thousands of them. And while they're in trouble, we've brought them back from the brink before. The only thing stopping it happening again, or any animal for that matter, is the will to do it. So I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I hope you've maybe taken away an appreciation of the scale of what's happening here. Other than that, guys, thanks to Kenan for letting us share this video with you. And if you want to know more, check out our channel. It's Wicked Wildlife. We've got about a dozen videos coming out from here in the fire zone over the next month or two. Other than that, guys, be nice to wildlife. Have a good one and take care.